Liam Montgomery had always lived a life wrapped in luxury and privilege, the kind of privilege that shields you from consequences and blurs the line between confidence and arrogance. At 22, he was the heir to a vast family fortune, his days filled with extravagant parties, high-end suits, and a constant parade of people catering to his every whim. But beneath the polished exterior, Liam carried an invisible armor of entitlement, one that made him blind to the feelings of those around him. One bright Monday morning, Liam strode into the grand lobby of his family's corporate headquarters. The marble floors gleamed under the soft sunlight filtering through towering windows. Everything about this place screamed success. Expensive art hung on pristine walls, and the air smelled faintly of fresh flowers and polished wood. To Liam, this was his kingdom, and everyone else was merely a background character in his story. As he neared the entrance, his sharp gaze landed on a figure moving slowly across the lobby floor. An older woman, dressed simply in a faded uniform, pushing a mop with steady hands. Her name was Mrs. Grace, though Liam had never bothered to learn it. To him, she was just another janitor, an invisible fixture in the grand building. But something about the way she moved, calm and unhurried, was different. She didn't flinch or look away as Liam approached, which only seemed to fuel his irritation. Liam's lips curled into a smirk as he stopped just a few feet away from her. "Can't you do this before the office opens? You're blocking the way," he said, voice dripping with disdain. Mrs. Grace paused, looked up slowly, and met his eyes with a calm steadiness that unsettled him for a moment. "I'm nearly finished," she replied softly, her tone even and polite. Liam scoffed, unable to hide his contempt. "Nearly finished? Looks like you're just getting started. Maybe next time, try to do your job before people have to walk through your mess." Without waiting for a response, he stepped forward and deliberately kicked the mop bucket, sending a splash of dirty water across her uniform, her shoes, and the shiny floor. The lobby fell silent. A few nearby employees glanced over, but no one spoke. Mrs. Grace's face remained composed, but her eyes held a quiet strength as she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small cloth. Methodically, she wiped the water from her face, then bent down and resumed mopping as if nothing had happened. Liam turned on his heel, satisfied with his display of power, unaware of the eyes watching him from the shadows. Cameras in the corners of the lobby captured every detail of the scene. Behind the glass walls of an upper-floor office, a pair of observant eyes followed the interaction intently. What Liam didn't know was that this moment, this careless act of cruelty, was about to set in motion a series of events that would unravel everything he thought he knew about power, respect, and himself. Because Mrs. Grace was no ordinary cleaning lady, and Liam Montgomery's life was about to change forever. This isn't just a story about a moment of humiliation. It's about what happens when pride is challenged, and true strength reveals itself in the most unexpected ways. Stay with me, because the next chapters will show you how one small act of kindness or cruelty can become the catalyst for transformation, not just for one person, but for everyone involved. You won't believe what happens next. Mrs. Grace moved through the quiet corridors of the towering building with a grace that belied her humble role. To most, she was just the cleaning lady, a background presence, unnoticed and unremarked upon. But beneath her simple uniform and gentle demeanor was a story few could imagine, one of resilience, wisdom, and unyielding strength shaped by years of quiet perseverance. Her real name was Margaret, but everyone called her Mrs. Grace, a name she had earned through the kindness she quietly extended to those around her. She wasn't born into privilege like Liam. Instead, life had tested her at every turn. Raised in a small town far from the gleaming city lights, she had faced hardship, early on loss, struggle, and the weight of responsibility at a young age. But those challenges only forged her character, molding her into a woman who carried herself with dignity and an unshakable belief in the power of kindness. Despite her position in the hierarchy of the building, Mrs. Grace held a secret that few could guess. Over the years, she had cultivated connections across many levels of the company, from fellow employees who respected her integrity to high-ranking officials who recognized the sharp mind beneath her calm exterior. She was a repository of stories and knowledge, quietly observing the world around her, always listening, always learning. That morning, as the dirty water dripped from her uniform, she didn't see humiliation, but an opportunity. Liam's careless act wasn't just an insult. It was a window into the blindness that often comes with power and privilege, and she was determined that this moment would not define her, or the man who had dismissed her so easily. With a steady heart, she finished her work and moved to her small office in the basement, a modest space filled with personal touches, photos of her family, a few well-worn books, and a notebook filled with ideas and plans. It was here that Mrs. Grace began to quietly prepare, weaving together threads of influence and support. Her network wasn't built on titles or wealth, but on trust, respect, and the quiet strength of shared stories. Meanwhile, Liam's world remained untouched, or so it seemed. He walked the marble halls unaware that the simple act of kicking a mop bucket was already stirring ripples far beyond his control. He continued his days wrapped in arrogance, blinded by the belief that money and status placed him above others. But change, as it often does, was creeping in, subtle, inevitable. Mrs. Grace's calm exterior masked a fire within, a determination not just to survive, but to teach a lesson that no amount of wealth could buy. She understood the power of humility, the strength found in kindness, and the courage it took to stand firm in the face of disrespect. As the days passed, the lines between who held true power began to blur. What Liam didn't realize was that Mrs. Grace was quietly becoming an invisible force in the building, a guardian of integrity and resilience. And when the time came, she would use that strength to challenge the very foundation of his world. The question was not if, but when. And when it happened, Liam would learn that true power isn't measured by wealth or status, but by the courage to change, the willingness to listen, and the grace to rise above pride. Hold on, because the next part of this story dives deeper into the consequences of that one careless act, how the strongest people can emerge from the humblest places, and why every moment holds the potential to rewrite a life's path. Liam still carried the weight of his morning arrogance lightly, unaware that the world around him was quietly shifting beneath his feet. In the weeks that followed the mop bucket incident, the ripples of that moment spread far beyond the lobby's polished floors. Whispers began to circulate, subtle yet persistent, drawing attention in places Liam never imagined. Mrs. Grace didn't seek vengeance or public confrontation. She believed in a different kind of power, the power of quiet influence and unwavering dignity. She started reaching out to those around her, from the janitorial staff to mid-level managers, sharing stories of fairness, respect, and integrity. Her calm presence became a source of inspiration for many who had silently endured unfairness in their own lives. Meanwhile, Liam's carefully constructed world began to show cracks. At the office, he noticed cold shoulders where warm greetings had once been. Deals he took for granted started to fall through, and meetings once eagerly scheduled began to be postponed or canceled. His reputation, wrapped tightly around his family's name, was being questioned, not loudly, but steadily. The turning point came when an unexpected letter arrived at the family estate. It wasn't an accusation, nor a public scandal. Instead, it was an invitation to a community event organized by a group Mrs. Grace had quietly helped build, a gathering focused on leadership through empathy and accountability. The letter challenged Liam to attend, not as a guest of privilege, but as someone willing to listen and learn. Curiosity wrestled with pride, but something inside Liam compelled him to say yes. For the first time, he stepped out of his luxury bubble and into a room filled with ordinary people sharing extraordinary stories of resilience and hope. There, he heard about struggles that wealth could never shield against: loneliness, failure, and the yearning for respect. Sitting quietly in the back, Liam watched Mrs. Grace speak. Her voice was steady, filled with wisdom born from years of experience rather than education. She spoke not just of her own journey, but of the invisible battles fought by countless others. Her words carried weight because they were rooted in truth and compassion. Something inside Liam began to unravel, the armor of entitlement softened by the light of humility. He realized that true strength wasn't about dominance or wealth, but about connection and empathy. That moment became the first crack in the wall he had built around himself. But change is never easy. Old habits tugged fiercely at him, and doubt whispered in the quiet moments. He struggled to reconcile the man he had been with the man he wanted to become. And Mrs. Grace, ever patient, remained a steady presence, not a judge, but a guide. The final chapter of Liam and Mrs. Grace's journey unfolded not with fanfare or grand declarations, but with quiet, profound change that rippled far beyond the walls of the Whitmore Tower and into the hearts of everyone connected to their story. What began as a moment of careless humiliation had blossomed into an extraordinary tale of redemption, resilience, and renewed purpose. Liam had come a long way from the spoiled, entitled young man who once saw the world through a lens of privilege. Now, he walked the halls with humility, respect, and a genuine desire to serve those around him. But the transformation was not just personal, it was contagious. His leadership inspired others to embrace kindness, fairness, and collaboration, turning a company once known for cold ambition into a place of community and support. Mrs. Grace remained a quiet force behind the scenes. Her influence felt in every corner of the company. She continued to mentor, to listen, and to remind everyone that true strength often comes from the most unexpected places. Her journey from a humble janitor to a respected leader became a beacon of hope for those who had ever felt overlooked or underestimated. Their partnership embodied a powerful truth, that no act of kindness or courage is ever wasted, and that even the smallest moments can spark the greatest change. It showed that forgiveness is not weakness, but a source of strength, and that the courage to change oneself can inspire transformation in others. Liam's story became a message to all who heard it, that pride can be broken, but humility can build. That mistakes do not define us, but how we respond to them can change the course of a lifetime. And that sometimes the greatest teachers are those we least expect. As the sun set over the city skyline, Liam and Mrs. Grace stood together in the lobby of Whitmore Tower, no longer divided by status or past mistakes, but united by respect and a shared vision for the future. Their story was no longer just about them. It was about the power of hope, the strength of community, and the endless possibilities that arise when we choose empathy over arrogance. This isn't just an ending, it's a beginning, a call to believe in the power of change, to hold on to hope, and to remember that every person has a story worth hearing and a strength worth honoring. And now, as you reflect on their journey, ask yourself, what small act today could become the spark that changes everything? Because sometimes the greatest transformations begin with a single moment and a choice to see the world through new eyes. Thank you for being part of this story. The journey continues, and so does the power to inspire.